Ciao and welcome. Today's recipe is very elegant, but also is very quick, very easy, and more importantly, incredibly tasty. I'm going to be making some conchiglioni baked in the oven. I'll show you what conchiglioni are. It's this type of pasta. Conchiglioni is like a big shell, here they are. And I'm going to be stuffing them with a mixture of courgettes, carrots, onion and ricotta. And I'm going to be making it with ham as well, but I'll give you a vegetarian version. Guess what? Just drop the ham. Anyway, I'm now grating a large zucchini through the larger teeth of a cheese grater, and this only takes about a couple of minutes. As you can see, I already started and it's very quick. I will give you obviously the ingredients and measurements in the recipe, but this zucchini is quite large and it weighs 400 grams, so you can adjust it by using a couple of smaller 200 grams each. Also, you'll have noticed that I left the skin on. That is because it's full of goodness, but if you don't like it, just peel it off before you grate it. And if, like me, you don't want to waste any, just ensure that you hold your zucchini there from the bun. This is the part which is attached to the plant, and you can see that actually I've extracted every little bit. And I'll do now exactly the same with the carrot. Again, I have washed and scrubbed it, so it's lovely and clean, and I'm keeping the skin for the same reason. It's full of goodness and fiber. And I'll do the carrot next. And that is my carrot done. Once again, mind your fingers. And let's have a quick look before I do the onion next. Ooh, looking good. Actually, I could do with shaking some off, and I'll leave the onion for last. Any waterworks can come at the end. Also, as a tip, if you're doing anything like this, or indeed a soffritto, always leave the onion for last. That is because they're very messy, aren't they? And they produce a lot of liquid. I mean, in this case, actually, it's not too bad because it's all confined. But if you were to chop it, you always leave a lot of mess on your worktop. Whereas actually, if you leave it for last, it doesn't matter too much. I think that is as far as I can go with the onion before I start grating my fingers. However, as I want to keep this, I'll just give it a very rough chop with a knife. That will be perfectly okay also, so we don't waste anything at all. My saucepan is ready and I'll add a little olive oil. One way to check if the oil is hot is to just gently turn it, and you can see that it's moving fluidly. That is a good temperature, so I can add my soffritto next. I'll give it a good mix as it is just out of the grater, and before I forget, and then I don't need to worry at all, I'm going to add a little salt now, and also some pepper, and I am done with salt and pepper. Another mix, and I'll put the lid on and I'll leave them to cook gently for about 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, you'll know you're on the right track, because you'll get something which looks a little bit like baby food. So that is perfect. So I'll turn it off. And I will move it over here as I will want it to cool down. And to accelerate the cooling down, I'll start by adding some cheddar, which I've just grated. I mentioned ham earlier, so this is what I'm going to be adding. Again, if you're vegetarian, just drop it, don't put it in. That will be also very nice. I will be adding ricotta next, but this is Parmesan cheese. Again, not a lot, just enough to give it a distinctive and elegant flavor. And here comes my ricotta. And I'll mix everything together, and as all my cheeses and ham are straight out to the fridge, they will help cooling this down a little. The reason why I want it to cool down is because I will be filling the shells in a little while, and I want the paste to be slightly denser, but then I will be putting it on the hob again to make a little sauce, but I'll show you that. In the meantime, I got my conchiglioni ready, and I'm going to give you another 2 tips. I'm full of tips today. First tip is ensure that you place them inside your oven dish that you're going to be using. In my case, I've got 18 in there, and by the time they cook, they will also swell a little, so that is perfect. So, but depending on what you're using, make sure that you count them, or you actually are aware of how many you need. Also, second tip is, look, I'm not going to be pre-cooking these. They will be going in as they are, a little bit like hard lasagna or cannelloni. Of course, you can also use lasagna or cannelloni to do this recipe. But look at these two here, assuming you were to use shells. They are closed, so not ideal really, because you want to be able to fill them. And also I'm going to show you this. Look, they are stuck together and I cannot open them. So the only way that this can be properly done is by cooking them in boiling water. So 18 for Julie and I. Depending on how many you're cooking for, you can adjust it accordingly, of course. And as my mix is lovely and dense and not hot at all, there is no risk for me to burn myself, and also it's very easy just using a teaspoon to start filling them up, just like this. and I'll put them in a separate bowl for now, because I will need the oven dish later, as I will be putting a layer of sauce before I put them in. So this is just temporary for the time being. So I'll fill them all up, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes. And here is my last one, so I'll put this out of the way for the time being. And here I've got half a liter of semi-skimmed milk, cold again out of the fridge, followed by a little plain flour, and I'll mix it in with a spoon. And of course my mix is completely cold by now, so I can add the milk and the flour to the mix together like this, and I'll move to the oven. You might have seen me making bechamel sauce in the past, and might have noticed that I would have put more flour. Generally I tend to put 10 grams of flour for every 100 milliliters of milk. Today I haven't. I've put half the amount of flour. So I've put half a liter of milk and 25 grams of flour. That is because the sauce will be cooked in the pasta. The pasta is still uncooked, so it will absorb a lot of the liquid, and clearly if I make the sauce too thick, it will end up to be very, very dry. So be careful if you're making this recipe. Do not put a lot of flour, half the quantity of what I normally do. But this will take no time at all to thicken up. I tend it on maximum, and I'm now waiting for it to reach the boil. And here they are, look, a few little bubbles are beginning to appear, so I'll just stir for another 10 seconds, but I will remove it from the heat though. And look at this, it's absolutely perfect. Let's just test it for saltiness. It's perfect, so be careful with the salt. And I'm on the home stretch now, so I'm applying a little sauce at the bottom of my oven dish. And I'm now placing my conchiglioni inside my oven dish with the round side facing downwards like this, and the side where the filling is facing upwards. And as I did count them before I stuffed them, there is no ambiguity that they're going to fit in, but you might have to play a little bit like this. And here is the rest of my sauce, which is nice and liquidy, and you will have guessed it, that goes all over everything, just like this. The strategy with this dish is that the stuffing inside the conchiglioni is considerably denser, and I packed it nicely with my teaspoon so they'll stay put, and all of the sauce on the outside will cook the pasta, and it should not, I say should not, dislodge the stuffing from inside. But before it goes in the oven, I'm applying now one last layer of Parmesan cheese, and it is ready. Temperature 180 degrees for 35 minutes. Mine is a fan assisted oven, so if yours is a conventional oven, up it to 200. The first 20 minutes, just like lasagna, cover it with some tin foils, then you remove it, and the last 15 minutes it will be without the tin foils, and it will burn up. It will look beautiful. So I've seen about 40 to 45 minutes. Ciao for now. And just out of the oven, piping hot, and I left it for a further 5 minutes, mostly because I wanted to be lovely and brown on top, but after 35 minutes would also have been okay. And by the way, if you feel slightly uneasy because the pasta was uncooked, just get a skewer, one of those, and go in and taste it, and in my case it goes through just like butter, so I feel definitely very, very easy, but it is too hot to touch it, so I'm going to leave it for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I need to think of a way to serve it. I've got an idea, but we will see about that. And the only way to do this is to go for it. So I'm using a normal spoon and fishing it, and I think it's just as easy. I'm trying to fish a little ham, and let's see what this is like. Perfetto, it's really delicious. It's quite creamy, but also sweet, but not too sweet. There is a good balance with the different type of cheeses, and the ham is delicious, honestly. And try and see what you think. As I said to you before though, you don't have to make it with this type of pasta. You can make it with lasagna, which probably will look a little bit more elegant, or indeed with what they call the tube, the cannelloni, and most probably more appropriate in terms of presentation, but they all taste very similar. Make it, let me know what you think, and as I said to you before, vegetarian version, drop the ham, and remember the best tip, remember to do the onions last. Arrivederci, ciao, and buon appetito. Thank you for watching.